Welcome to ORF. I'm with Mr. Sean Kidney, who is the CEO of the Climate Bond Initiative. Welcome, and thanks for sparing the time to do this short interview.
It's a great privilege to be here.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with a very basic question, which considering climate is such a big issue now, and you're in Delhi, which has probably the worst air of any city on the planet.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Yeah. So what is a green bond, and how does it work?
A green bond is an ordinary bond.
Yeah.
It can be any kind of bond. It can be a sovereign bond, a corporate bond, an asset-backed security, a green city bond, where the proceeds are allocated to projects or assets that are relevant to addressing environmental challenges.
Right.
Simple as that.
Right. So, how does it work?
So let's take an example. NTPC, National Thermal Power Company, a coal company,
Right.
has issued a green bond where they are promising to allocate the proceeds to developing solar in India.
Yeah.
They've got a 20 megawatt solar mandate.
Yeah.
It's 20 gigawatt. What am I talking about? 20
Yeah,
gigawatt. So they've got a huge amount of capital to raise. So investors love the fact that they're a big established company. If you like, they like their legacy creditworthiness because they own all these coal plants.
Right.
But these investors would rather see their money going into renewable energy now because they see that as the way forward. So we get the best of both worlds.
Right.
We get old credit rating, but money only going to new investors, to new assets, and investors love this in Europe, in Australia, or in the US, in Japan.
Right.
And that's what a green bond is.
Right.
There's all sorts, though. Renewable energy companies can issue them. France has issued 10 billion euros of green bonds and allocated the proceeds to green investments the country is making, and that works as well. We had 155 billion issued last year, US dollars worth.
Right.
And that was an 80% increase in the previous year, and it's going to double this year with the help of India.
I hope so. So, is it fair to say that things like the green bond, which is helping develop solar and other renewable energy projects?
Solar, wind energy, geothermal, waste to energy, water sanitation, clean water, rail transport, low emission transport, energy efficient buildings, the list goes on and on and on.
So, is it going to help us with our addiction to oil?
Yes.
And what's the time frame?
And bearing in mind, your addiction to oil is part of what's making air pollution in India so bad. The other thing, of course, is cropping practices, which are also being worked on. And the investments being made in cropping practices in Punjab and Haryana are also eligible for green bonds because they also improve the viability of farming and the climate resilience for farmers in those areas.
Right.
So there's a lot of things here. But you will see a dramatic reduction in oil usage over the next 5 to 10 years. Electric vehicles, electric scooters are already taking off in India in a huge way.
Yeah.
Electric vehicles will be next. Mahindra, Tata all have big programs in this area. The government has announced by 2032 there will be only electric vehicles sold in India, and that's the end of oil.
Right.
You can almost count the days.
But let's say in the 2022 prediction, if you're talking about, do you think it's achievable?
Well, 2032 is for vehicles.
Oh, right, sorry, yeah.
Although 2022 is the 100 gigawatt of solar.
Okay, yeah, right.
And my
answer
is yes to both, absolutely. And in fact, one of the great
people are skeptical about that.
One of the great things about in India is that you do have the ambition, you're putting it out there, and let's take the solar, where when Prime Minister Modi announced the 100 gigawatts, most people said rubbish. Yet another crazy objective. India will never do this.
Yeah.
Overseas people still say this, but I don't find anyone in India anymore who says we're not going to do it.
True.
Now this has been fantastic. This is revolutionary. And actually, this is what the whole world has to do to address the challenge of climate change. To have huge ambition for transition, and then of course look afterwards at ways to execute it and achieve it. So, I think the world's got a lot to learn from what India's doing at the moment. I have no doubt we'll achieve the electric vehicle. Frankly, I'm going to predict we'll get there earlier.
Really?
Cost reduction in batteries is extraordinary at the moment, thanks to large-scale rollout of electric vehicles. I was on a platform with one car company recently in Brazil, and the COO said that, they think the electric vehicles will be about 1 to 2% in 2025. I turned around to him and said, are you crazy? China is just saying that they're going to ban all fossil fuels within the next couple of years in major cities. Other countries have started doing this, and the cost curve is way down. So we predict that without any subsidies, by about 2022, electric vehicles will be cheaper than fossil fuels.
Without any subsidies?
Without any subsidies. We need subsidies till then to help grow the business. And there's environmental benefits to Delhi's air if we do that. That's why we bring in subsidies, right? But by then, like solar in India now, subsidies are no longer required for solar in India. It's exactly the same cost reduction we're seeing in electric vehicles. It's incredibly exciting for people with asthma.
So,
like you.
I know. This is because of the air. But but subsidies are important till then. It's critical.
We have to kick off changes. We're doing this for health reasons, for public policy reasons, to address some really major challenges to our world. You know, India is probably the most exposed economy in the world to climate changes.
Yeah.
We've already seen last season extreme heat across northern plains of India, which the scientists are now telling us the extremity
it's going to go up.
is because of climate change.
And it's going
Thousands of people died. This is just the beginning. So we're not only addressing the air quality in Delhi, we're also addressing medium-term, even shorter-term challenges around climate change. So we've got a lot of reasons to make these transitions. And the beautiful aspect of it is it's going to give us, as we make the transition, cheaper energy, cheaper cars, and so on. And that's what we're beginning to go into.
Right.
But we've got to accelerate it. That's the thing. And that's where the subsidies come in, because the greater the level of order manufacturing volume growth now, the faster the cost curve is coming down.
Right.
And the sooner we achieve the sort of nirvana of clean energy.
Right. And my final question is maybe a little controversial one.
Sure.
The world's largest economy, the United States, today talks more about oil, coal than anything else. And they're not so much talking about renewables anymore. And does it matter what the United States thinks?
Do you really think it matters what Trump says? I mean,
I think it does. He's the most powerful man in the world.
But he's an irrelevancy even in the US. No, in the US we have, we work in California and New York and so on. California is beating its renewable energy targets. It's also have ambitious targets like India. It's not stopping. We had the 300 largest investors in the US come out last year and say, well, whatever the president says, they're concerned about climate change and they're acting anyway. The largest companies. Look, this is happening. It's sad for the US because the US is now the only country in the world that hasn't ratified the Paris Agreement. Yeah. I mean, how lonely can you be?
That's true.
Let alone the implications for their soft power on the planet. This is the beginning of a significant decline of what's been the global power to date. It's very sad that it's happening because of stupidity, which is, I suppose, what happens in these cases. This revolution is happening around the world. If I go to Brazil, I see these things changes. In China, the change in what the government is saying they're doing and what they're doing on the ground is extraordinary. They're wandering around closing coal-fired power stations and saying, I know it's tough that 5,000 people are going to work. We'll have to find work elsewhere. But even though it's got a 20-year life, we're closing it down. This is what's going on right now in China.
Right.
And around the world, electric vehicles in Europe are now taking off everywhere. It's just hot air from Washington, D.C.
Right.
Even within the US, it's hot air. There is no way you can revive coal.
Yeah.
Coal industry globally has lost 95% of its value in the last 6 years.
Right.
Now, that is a total disaster for investors. They're not going back.
Right.
The coal industry isn't going to revive. It's gone. Solar's cheaper than coal in India.
Yeah.
I mean, why are we going to build anymore?
Right.
So that day's over.
Right.
The only issue now is whether we can push this transition fast enough so we can head off the catastrophe we're currently facing with climate change. By mid-2050, parts of India will become uninhabitable at the moment. Yeah. And we're in a race against time to address that. But listen, I want to finish up one last thing.
Yeah, sure.
The good news.
Yeah.
The good news is there's more capital on the planet than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
At least 60% of it has been outright and saying climate change is a big issue than whatever. $60 trillion of US under management are saying this at the UN Climate Summit and so on. And they're mainly stuck because they're in Europe and Japan and the US in zero interest, negative interest rate bonds, 21% of European capital. Now, that is the opportunity for India. Right? They need yield. They want to go green. Give them green deals.
So time is ripe for India to grab the narrative.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.